You came here because you want to know what the mark of the beast is. You have an idea, but you just want to see how right you are, right? Well, if you watch the rest of this video, you will be sure what it is and what it isn't or can't be. Everything else you've been told is speculation and a distraction from what it really is. This is not a guess, it's a biblical fact, if you are willing to believe what the Bible is telling you. So here it is. The Bible, a text revered by millions, contains a prophecy that has intrigued and terrified humanity for centuries. In the book of Revelation, it describes a sinister mark, one that all people, rich or poor, must accept to buy or sell. It also forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark. That comes from Revelation 13 verses 16 to 17. The question is, what is this mark? Could it be some future technology, like a chip implanted in our skin, or something far more insidious, something we've already embraced? What if the mark of the beast is hiding in plain sight? Nearly 2,000 years ago, a man named John of the Bible was exiled on the barren island of Patmos, and while there, he received a cryptic vision that has perplexed humanity ever since, a prophecy about the rise of the beast and its mark. Fast forward to today, and this prophecy has fueled wild speculations, especially all over the internet. People fear microchips, barcodes, tattoos, or even vaccines, believing they might be the mark of the beast. But let's take a moment to pause and think, would an all-knowing God care about something as petty as a chip under your skin or a barcode on your groceries? Or does this misunderstanding reflect humanity's tendency to focus on the wrong battle? Is man secretly being distracted? John's true mission wasn't to warn us about technological implants or tattoos, it was far deeper and more profound. He was telling us that humanity would face a time when they would be so distracted by material wealth and worldly survival that they would drift away from God's promises of a new kingdom. The warning was about priorities and faith, not gadgets or markings. John couldn't have imagined the modern world we live in, our dollar bills, banks, or financial empires. He lived in a society that bartered or used rudimentary coins, not paper money. Yet, his vision spoke of a future where humanity would be enslaved by a system so pervasive and powerful that it would dictate who could buy, sell, or survive. John likely believed these apocalyptic events would happen soon, given the corruption and chaos of his own time. Yet, the spirit conveying this vision had a longer timeline in mind, one that spanned thousands of years. The prophecy revealed a time when humanity would turn away from God, relying instead on a system that Satan would gradually build. So to enslave humanity, Satan couldn't act abruptly. He needed to work subtly, step by step, over centuries. He needed to create misery, wars, famines, and societal unrest to make people desperate for solutions. Then, he needed individuals who could appear as saviors, providing answers to these problems but tethering humanity to a system of control. That system? Money. As people became reliant on money to solve their problems, housing, food, healthcare, and more, Satan's web tightened. And debt, mortgages, and economic servitude became the chains binding humanity to this beast-like system. Could this prophecy have been pointing to our present age, a world where money, debt, and global financial systems dominate every aspect of life? And I know you've heard rumors, but could the Rothschild family, with their historic role in shaping global finance, really be linked to this mysterious beast? Let's go and see, and you decide for yourself. Let's fast forward to 1744. A boy named Mayer Amschel Bauer was born in Frankfurt, Germany. His family lived in what they called a Jewish ghetto, marked by poverty and persecution. Mayer's father, a money changer, hung a red shield, which is called a Rothschild in German, outside their shop. This symbol became the family's name, and part of their crest shield, Rothschild. While we're here, look at the creatures in the picture. Does this tell you anything at all? But Mayer wasn't content to stay small. He envisioned a financial empire that would transcend borders and nations. He wanted it to be worldwide. By placing his 5 sons in major European cities, he created a banking dynasty that could influence wars, governments, and economies. Rothschild's original goal may have been self-preservation and wealth, but the systems he created would later serve as the backbone for global financial control. His methods, loans to governments, interest-based lending, and the consolidation of wealth, laid the groundwork for a world where money ruled supreme. Was Mayer Rothschild merely a shrewd businessman, or was he an unwitting pawn in a larger, more sinister plan? I know it's tough to digest for some, but was Rothschild a part of Satan's plan? As John's vision foretold, Satan created problems that would drive humanity into the arms of his system. Wars drained nations of resources. Famines left millions starving. Diseases demanded costly medical solutions. And every solution came with a price tag. People worked harder, borrowed more, and mortgaged their futures to survive. The more they relied on money, the less they relied on God. Satan's plan wasn't just about creating misery, it was about redirecting humanity's faith from divine providence or trust in God to material wealth. Enter the Rothschilds and their dynasty. By the time Mayer's sons had established their financial empire, the world was already primed for their influence. Now, with all the wars you know that have happened, governments needed loans to fund that activity. Tanks, guns, uniforms, and all that stuff, money had to come from somewhere to pay for it all. And businesses needed capital to grow and expand. And the Rothschilds provided it all, and they did it at a cost. In the financial world, they call it interest. Actually, the Rothschilds even funded both sides of wars in the process. Think about that. And then in 1913, the creation of the Federal Reserve marked a new chapter in financial control. Although some might say the Rothschilds weren't directly named, even though they actually were, but either way, it is obvious their influence on global banking systems made them central to conspiracy theories. The fact is, everything involving money had their stamp of approval on it. And know that central banks or Federal Reserves, basically developed by the Rothschilds and their money philosophies, are now in countries all around the world, thanks mostly to the Rothschild sons. And they control the money supply, interest rates, and economic policies, creating a system where survival depends on access to money. All banks, for the most part, get their money, particularly the amount they lend, from the Federal Reserve, or what they authorize to be printed and distributed. Some religious conspiracy theorists do see it, and argue that this is the ultimate manifestation of the beast's mark, a system that tracks and controls every transaction. And even those opposing would have to say that it at least looks like the system does have all the attributes of the beast mentioned in the Bible. But what do you think? Digital currencies and biometric payment systems only amplify this fear. And if money becomes entirely digital, how easy would it be to enforce the prophecy of Revelation 13 verse 17, that no one could buy or sell without the mark? But these conspiracy fanatics are missing the full point. Right on the bills will tell it all. And know that money got its start in places like these. It's not the chip or implant coming that's the problem. It's more of the mindset about money we already have before us. If you need more about the power of the beast in Revelations, well, the Rothschilds' influence wasn't limited to finance. In 1917, Lord Walter Rothschild played a key role in securing the Balfour Declaration, which expressed British support for a Jewish homeland in Palestine. This is factually the document signed that started the move of Jews from places like Germany to Israel. While this could be celebrated as a milestone for Jewish people, some historians argue it had ulterior motives. Critics suggest the creation of Israel was less about any actual faith and more about geopolitics and control, since it is a fact that a great percentage of these people are actually either atheists, deny Jesus as the Messiah, or are not devoted to the Bible that you probably believe in. They are devoted to their own set of books. And several of them. Oh yes, you can search that out for yourself. You will see it was really about the power of money and safety, and not a relationship with God as the chosen people in the Hebrew Bible. That idea came later in hindsight for them. And if you didn't already know it, all the Middle East fighting on TV and in the news is actually because of this whole scenario created by Rothschild. Here's where the controversy deepens. Even though people will distract away from the facts and say otherwise, Ashkenazi Jews, who now make up a significant portion of the population in Israel, and also over 90% of Jews in the world, which by the way is a name that never appeared in the Bible until the 17th century, because the letter J only first came into existence in 1524, when Italian grammarian John Giorgio Trissino first distinguished it as a separate letter from the letter I, effectively creating the modern J as we know it today. and there is still no letter J in the Greek and some other alphabets in the world. Think about that. But in reality, they are actually indeed descendants of Khazars or the Khazarian Empire in the Caucasus Mountain area, and not biblical Hebrews or Israelites at all. If that is true, which it is, what does that mean for the Rothschilds' role in this history? Was the Balfour Declaration part of a divine plan for God's chosen people? Or a scheme and slick move to consolidate money and power? Facts don't lie, but people do. Let's tie it all together. John's vision described a system of total control, where the beast would dictate who could buy and sell. Today, money, and the systems surrounding it, fulfill that role. The Rothschilds didn't actually create money, because, like was said before, the idea of a form of paying for things already existed. But it was actually Chinese merchants several hundred years after Jesus' time who adopted a form of paper currency into transactions. But that was still part of Satan's setup for the future system. Then later Rothschild and other Jewish cohorts perfected its use as a tool of power. Their empire, from Meyer's Red Shield to the Federal Reserve and beyond, symbolizes humanity's reliance on material wealth over spiritual faith. And here's the chilling question: have we already accepted the mark of the beast? Every time we swipe a card, take out a loan, or pay interest, are we participating in Satan's system? Please know that the purpose is not to bash Jewish people behind the money system we have, but to point out the factually correct information. If it wasn't them, then we would be talking about another set of people who did create the beast and the mark instead. But the evidence will not lie to you. In Revelation 13, John describes a beast that would control who could buy or sell, declaring that its mark would be required for survival in the world. While some interpret this literally, fearing government conspiracies or futuristic tech, the core of John's vision wasn't about physical marks on the skin but a spiritual reality. He couldn't have envisioned modern-day banks, credit cards, the internet, and stuff like that. He just saw metaphorical symbols and tried to warn us about what they meant, using the only understanding that he had at the time. He foresaw a world where money, power, and materialism would replace humanity's reliance on God. And what better way than to use a beast? Or people that barely, if at all, had faith in God. Think about that. Misunderstanding the mark of the beast often arises because many people resist the idea that the mark could symbolize money. Why? Because money is so ingrained in daily life that acknowledging its role might make us feel complicit in the devil's plan. But John wasn't saying that money itself is evil. He was simply revealing that Satan would use it as a tool to distract and enslave humanity. He would use it to rob us of salvation, if he could. Satan's brilliance lies in his subtlety. He didn't introduce money as an inherently evil entity, but as a necessity for survival in his earthly kingdoms. God, in his infinite wisdom, knew humanity would need money to live in the world. He doesn't expect his followers to reject paying bills or feeding their families. Instead, he calls on them to recognize the facade, that money is just a tool, a means to an end, and not a God to be worshipped. Scripture provides guidance on this balance. Passages like Matthew 22 verse 21, "Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's," and John 17 verse 16, "They are not of the world, just as I am not of the world," both show that God understands the necessity of navigating life's demands. Believers are expected to live in Satan's kingdoms, but with their hearts set on God's promises. Now, understand that those without the mark are not those who avoid money, but those who see through its illusion. They use it to survive, but don't let it control their lives. Conversely, those with the mark are consumed by greed, power, and the oppression of others. They live solely to amass wealth, exploiting others and perpetuating a system designed to keep people dependent. That's mostly banks and financial institutions. These individuals embody the warning of Matthew 16 verse 26, "For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul?" If Satan is clever, then God is infinitely smarter. When Jesus died, Satan began weaving his plan, exploiting humanity's vulnerabilities. By creating a world reliant on money and materialism, he built a system so pervasive that most people don't even recognize it as a trap. Satan distracts people with fears of futuristic marks, while the real mark, our dependence on money, has already infiltrated every aspect of life. Think about it. A lot of people will agree the mark must have something to do with money, seeing as it is hard to live in this world without money. But way too many are fixated on the idea of a physical stamp or implant. Something that would be so obvious. Remember, Satan is not that stupid. He knows people would see right through that. And what would a chip in your hand or a tattoo on your forehead matter to God? What he truly cares about is where your heart lies. Are you seeking the kingdom of heaven or clinging to the fleeting comforts of this crumbling world is what God would care about. That mark is what he's looking for. Here's the truth. The mark of the beast is not just about what you use to live, but about what you live for. Those who follow Christ use money because they must, but they don't let it define their purpose or allegiance. They see through the deception, understanding that true salvation lies not in accumulating wealth, but in trusting God's promises. The mark of Christ means living with faith, hope, and a heart set on God's kingdom. Even while navigating the challenges of this world, John couldn't have imagined dollar bills, stock markets, or central banks. But his vision foretold a time when humanity would turn from God and worship the beast. Whether the Rothschilds are the architects of this system or merely its most visible face, their legacy forces us to confront unsettling truths. John's prophecy is a call to vigilance. Satan heard John's vision and has worked tirelessly to distract humanity. By keeping people obsessed with literal interpretations or future events, he diverts attention from the real battle already underway. The Rothschilds and other powerful figures are often cited as architects of this system. Whether or not that's true, the larger truth remains: money has become a tool for control. For centuries, it has dictated who thrives and who suffers, creating a world where the weak are exploited and the strong grow stronger. But those who ground themselves in God's promises can see through the lies and resist being consumed by this system. The mark of the beast is not coming, it's already here. It's not a chip or a barcode or tattoo. It's the system of control that makes money the ultimate arbiter of life and death. But there is hope. You can live in this world, use the system to survive, and still bear the mark of Christ. By keeping your heart set on God's promises and rejecting the idolatry of wealth, you stand apart from those who have given themselves fully to Satan's game. Remember, John's vision wasn't just a warning, it was a roadmap. It shows that salvation is still within reach for those who choose truth over deception, faith over fear, and God over gold. If you didn't see it before, now you are blessed to see it clearly. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you keep searching and waiting on someone to force you to take an implant in your hand or some type of tattoo? Hey, in this long-winded discussion, I've already told you the truth.